Have you ever heard of Paul "Goodfella" Vario, a powerful and feared member of the Lucchese crime family? Despite his notoriety, Vario remained enigmatic and private, with little known about his personal life. However, with the publication of Wiseguy and the release of Goodfellas, his story reached a wider audience. In this video, we will delve into the brutal true story of Paul Vario, a man of few words but considerable power and influence. We will uncover how he maintained his low profile and evaded the authorities while running his illegal activities, including stealing trucks from JFK Airport. Stay tuned until the end to learn about the level of control Vario had over the cargo haulers union and the political figures he was allegedly associated with. Paul Vario, also known as Paulie, was a feared and adored member of the Lucchese crime family. He was born in New York in 1914 to Italian parents. He set up shop in Brooklyn's Brownsville neighborhood, which became known as Murder Incorporated among the general public in the 1940s for being a hub for contract killers. Vario was renowned for keeping his personal life private, with only his criminal history and connections to Henry Hill and Jimmy the Gent Burke giving any indication of his personality. If not for Nicholas Pileggi's book Wiseguy and the movie that followed, Goodfellas, Vario's relative obscurity in the public eye would have persisted. Vario was a tall, powerful man who stood over 6 feet tall and weighed close to 250 pounds. Vario was renowned for his slow reflexes and lack of fear. Hill claimed that Vario would turn his head slowly if there was a loud noise or a call to his name. Paul Vario, commonly known as Paulie, was born in 1914 to Italian parents in New York. He rose to prominence in the Lucchese crime family and spent most of his time in Brooklyn's Brownsville, a district known for its contract killers and given the nickname Murder Incorporated in the 1940s. Both fear and admiration were associated with Vario's reputation as a member of this underworld. Vario maintained his mystery and enigmatic persona despite his notoriety by choosing to keep his personal affairs private. We can only learn anything about his character from his arrest history and relationships with infamous mobsters like Jimmy the Gent Burke and Henry Hill. Vario had a reputation for being reserved, and he rarely discussed his life or involvement in organized crime in public. With the publication of Wiseguy by Nicholas Pileggi and the subsequent release of Goodfellas, Vario's story finally reached a wider audience and provided some insight into the real-life person behind the legend. Hill described Vario as a big man who stood over 6 feet tall and weighed close to 250 pounds. He had a reputation for being unflappable and having a slow reflex. Vario would slowly turn his head when his name was called or a loud noise was made. If it weren't for media attention given to Vario's story, his reputation as a member of the Lucchese crime family would have remained largely unknown. He was renowned for his feared yet adored position within the company and, in his prime, was a force to be reckoned with. Vario was a man of few words and preferred to keep his private life hidden from the public, despite his larger-than-life persona. Along with running his crew, Paulie ran several legitimate businesses, including a flower shop, a cab company called the Euclid Avenue Cab Company, and a pizzeria by the name of Presto. His brothers Salvatore, Thomas, Leonard, and Vito, also known as Tutty, were also involved in the family's operations, even though these businesses were legal. Even more impressively, Leonard, the eldest of the Vario siblings, was apprehended alongside Charles Lucky Luciano. The majority of Paulie's crew's illegal activities took place in the pizzeria and a cab stand managed by Vito, which was located directly across the street from Henry Hill's teen residence. Hill didn't have any records to support the precise date Paulie started working with the Luccheses. Instead, as a young man, he ran errands and performed odd jobs for the Vario crew. But it appears likely that Paulie was brought up in the family, made rich, and perhaps even promoted to capo in the 1950s and 60s. Paulie may have served as Stefano LaSalle's temporary underboss just before Ben Bugsy Gibbs Tremonti was found guilty, according to some reports, but this assertion is debatable. Paulie's crew was undoubtedly one of the most lucrative at the Lucchese Borgata, and the majority of their illicit profits came from stealing trucks from JFK Airport. Hill explained that the airport seemed preferable to the city to us, and especially to guys like Jimmy. The crew would simply head over to JFK and withdraw money if they ran out. The FBI launched a campaign against organized crime in the 1980s, targeting the Lucchese family, a significant mafia organization operating in New York City. FBI agents installed covert microphones in various places during this time to gather information about the mob's activities. The Lucchese family and their associates were bragging about their power and influence over political figures, including former U.S. President John F. Kennedy, according to these wiretaps. This was a blatant example of how the level of authority and control held by Paul Vario, a senior family member who was well known to have considerable sway at the airport and over the union of cargo haulers. Vario was a cunning operator who preferred to maintain a low profile and stay out of the way of the authorities. He rarely spoke on the phone, preferring to deliver instructions to trusted subordinates during face-to-face meetings. Vario was extremely organized and remembered everything, said Henry Hill, a former Lucchese family member who became an FBI informant. He didn't take notes or record anything, and he only used public phone booths to make calls. He always planned to meet up in person later. Vario was still largely unknown to the general public despite having considerable power and influence. Many encyclopedias still do not include an entry for him. Vario briefly held the position of membership director for Joe Colombo's Italian-American Civil Rights League in the 1970s. At the time, this contentious organization was picketing the FBI office in New York. When Vario saw the group's actions were bringing unwanted attention to their illegal activities, he resigned from his position. Unfortunately, Vario had already attracted the attention of the FBI, which resulted in increased scrutiny and surveillance of his actions. Vario was under surveillance when his criminal behavior was indicted. He was given immunity, but he refused to assist the police. He was consequently found responsible for contempt and given a 3-year prison term. Vario shared a cell with Henry Hill, who was serving a 10-year term for attempted murder while he was incarcerated. After Vario was found guilty, Polly was granted parole and started dating Hill's wife. Insiders claim that he took advantage of every opportunity to have sex with her. After failing in his attempts to seduce her as well, Tommy DeSimone II turned to try and rape Karen Hill. When Vario learned of this, he was incensed and immediately got in touch with the Gambino family to let them know that DeSimone was not a made man and was accountable for the deaths of 2 of their associates. According to the Goodfellas movie, Billy Batts may have been one of the victims. Later, Hill disclosed that John Gotti had murdered DeSimone in retaliation for the murder of Batts. Even though Vario was not a direct participant in the robbery at the Lufthansa airport, he would have had to approve of Jimmy Burke's plan as a capo. According to Hill, the heist resulted in a sizable payout for Vario. In conclusion, Vario's involvement in illegal activities resulted in his being charged and ultimately imprisoned. He was incarcerated alongside Henry Hill in a cell together, where he met Polly and Tommy DeSimone II and got involved in their love lives. Vario may or may not have been involved in the Lufthansa heist. However, according to Hill, he profited significantly from the theft. Henry Hill may have become a government informant in 1980 as retaliation for Vario's relationship with Hill's wife, or out of fear that Burke and Vario would kill him for selling drugs without their consent. Hill hypothesized that his participation in the Lufthansa heist might be to blame. Burke had already killed several other participants in the theft, so Hill figured that he might also get rid of him. Whatever the reason, Hill's testimony led to Vario's 1984 conviction for defrauding the government. He was later given a 6-year prison sentence for extortion, largely as a result of Hill's testimony. One has to wonder if Paul Vario knew he would never see the outside world again as the prison gates closed behind him. He was in poor health and his 70s. At the age of 73, he passed away on May 3, 1988 from a respiratory condition. Paul Vario's final place of residence was the Texas prison Fort Worth Federal, and he was laid to rest at St. John's Cemetery in Middle Village, Queens. Paul "Goodfella" Vario was a larger-than-life figure who rose to power and prominence in the Lucchese crime family. His reputation for being unflappable, cunning, and secretive made him an object of both fear and admiration among his peers in the underworld. Vario's story provides insight into the inner workings of organized crime in New York City during the mid-20th century, and it's clear that his influence extended far beyond his criminal activities. Despite his relative obscurity to the general public, Vario's story has been immortalized in popular culture through books and movies, such as Nicholas Pileggi's Wiseguy and the Martin Scorsese film Goodfellas. While Vario may have preferred to keep his personal life private, his legacy continues to captivate audiences with its tales of power, corruption, and criminal enterprise. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.